So, hello, it's Sean again. We're out doing a very unusual painting today. It's the out there behind me. We've got what looks to me as like a power station. I think it's the Sutton power station. You can see it way off there in the background. Anyway, that's what we're going to be having a look at. It's a nice sunny day. It's quite windy, quite cold out, but yeah, mid-April, and we're just going to get into. So there's the power station in all its glory off in the distance. We'll see how the shadows go there. The things I've got to capture. So, yep, let's get into it. So the sketch is done. Took about 10-15 minutes to do this. One of the things I've done is to establish where the shadows are. I also took a photograph of that as well, because on a day like today, it changes a lot. There's a lot of change in the weather. The clouds will come over, and then you're going to miss where those key shadows are. So I've got that as a reference point anyway. We're just going to get straight into this. I'm going to wet the paper. I'm going to use this large 20 mop brush, and also probably going to spray in as well, I think. Just carefully come down to the horizon. If I spray in, that will create some different effects. But the sky, we need the whites of the paper to come through. Let's just get straight into this. Strong ultramarine at the top. I'm going to pop this in just quickly. Just design that down, and then using the same without dipping back into the paint, just coming down as it's get weaker, and it's also blending and bleeding into parts of the water that we put on and across some of the dry brush stroke as well. And that's just coming down to the horizon. I've also got in some leftovers as well, which I'll pop in, which is kind of grey mixture. Leftovers, I kind of just mix everything that's left in the palette. We're going to put that across here as well, this grey. The soil is quite a warm grey, which is interesting when it's not been dug over. We'll use some of that into the sky as well, just for unity's sake. So we've got kind of blues and greys as an underpainting. We'll just tidy this up along here and just put directional lines. We'll leave some bits of white under, tiny little patches of white under, just to create little highlights. And next we're going to come in and just put in some of the greys. We're still working on the greys. This grey roof of this storage building on the left hand side. I'm going to treat all of this really simply here. The more detailed is going to be around the Sutton Bridge power station, the two towers, and the bits and bobs that are all around that. There are a few bits and bobs in here, as you can see. I will leave some of the pencil work, but I also go in quite strong, but for the moment I'm just establishing some early tones and just thinking about how I'm going to approach this. I'm going to pop in the towers themselves, just put those in as well. The tip of the brush, you can see that. We don't need to be too precise. We don't want to be going in close on a brush, as if we're holding a pencil for detailed work. This is not that style of painting. This is very loose, and that looseness comes from holding the brush as far to the end as you comfortably can, and while keeping control. So the towers are established. We will develop some shadows on those towers as we go along. This is just getting the general tone. I'm going to take out some of that because there's a small silo, quite an important part of the painting, this, because it's highlighted. The roof on it is very yellow, yellowy green, and the building below it is also yellowy green. So two similar tones, and we need to be thinking about that, thinking ahead. That's going to be where the lightest light is going to be going. We'll just bring in some more of this grey into this main storage building. Let's pop that in. 8 in. Still using this number 8 brush, and then there's a shaft of light comes through, like a greeny yellow light that keeps coming through. This is very typical of being outside and in all over the country, but especially in Lincolnshire and Norfolk, where it's quite flat, and Cambridgeshire in the Fens. And we'll just pop in some of this kind of grey mixture into it as well, just to strengthen up this foreground. Just moving stuff around my fingers, it's not an issue at all. I just want to bleed off some of those edges on the paint. It's very windy, so it's drying off quite quickly. We want some blending and bleeding going on here. We want some lost and found edges. We don't want everything sharp. Our sharpest part's going to be where the tower is, the two power station sort of stacks, those tower stacks, plus around the silo. So just keep establishing and building up, trying to get it in kind of one hit if we can. But remember, while that paint's wet, we can always go back into it, which is always very, very useful thing to know. Once it dries off, kind of got an issue unless you spray it again, and then you can reactivate it. So just going to pop in parts of this building, still using this number 8 squirrel mop. Going to take some out with a, just took off the moisture there just to bleed that off. And this is the edge of the barn. We're coming in with some warmer sienna here, which will bring this part of the painting forward in the middle distance. Seeing if that's dry enough to work on the towers. Using the back of my knuckle, if you notice, back of my finger to test that, because I know that's going to be clean and not have any paint on it. So here we go. Just practice before we touch the paper, notice that. So I did some little practice, like movements, before I went in. You don't need to be too precise on this, just establishing a bit of a shadow. We might need to strengthen this up actually, but for the moment this is okay. Definitely need to put in some lost and found edges on the shadow, because it's not sharp. It's not a sharp shadow to the left. So using a tissue just to dab out some of the, on this silo again. I'll just paint it over that. I want that to be quite light there. The joys of painting outdoors. Look at that board rocking. Look at that. Yeah. So this is the side of, just pop that in shadow. This is the right hand side of this storage building. I need to kind of join and connect all these up, and you'll see me, I'm going to do that. I'm going to join up, just put in some of the little details, but I'm going to join up this left hand building. In front of it will come some trees. Just pop in the shadow here, and also all around the tower is quite dark, very dark in fact, around the double tower there. So I'll probably just use sienna and maybe neutral tint in there, definitely neutral tint for the darker notes. It's all very heavily constructed. Let's just establish a little bit more of this middle distance, just kind of indicate where the trees are, they're in front of these buildings, and then just wash that out with clear water, just let it run away. Again, lost and found edges, really important to have those in, not have everything sharp, especially in foreground. You don't really want your foregrounds too sharp. Now then, let's put in this, some of these parts here, these buildings with burnt sienna. Just establish some of these. There's a kind of a theme of a triangular edge to these. but we don't need to be too precise. We can just put these in loosely and let that run as well. That's quite a nice effect, letting it run into the green there. And then popping in some grey in this before I go in and put in some much darker tones. To see some of the pencil work will come through. Again, it's just using the tip of the brush, and for the most part of this painting, for 90% so far, we've only used this number 8 mop brush. If you remember, right at the start we used the number 20, the bigger brush, to put in the sky, but this is now going into some of the bits and bobs, coming in with darker tones now. And before we can do that, we need to put in these trees. These are kind of conifer trees right in the background there. So if that's running, I need to sort that out. So I move the board to just get to the edge of the roofs. So it's running into the roof and we don't want that. Again, still using the tip of the brush. So there's that bank of conifers. There's quite a nice foil with counterchange for the other lighter parts that are around it. And quite nice as a theme, of a triangular theme that we've got going. With the roofs, with these conifer trees as well. Now we're just going to pop in some of this neutral tint work. Very end tip of the brush. So there's the darker notes coming in now. We don't want to just put that in as like one block, because there are lots of highlights coming through. And I also want to be establishing at some point some dry brush in here as well. I need to be careful around the silo that's in there and around the roof of that main building that's just below the towers. So this is a bit of careful looking going on now. There we go. Carefully round there. We can use this same mixture to keep looking where these darks and highlights are. As I said, this is a very structural part of the painting. And can be quite tricky to paint sometimes when you have these strong breezes. While we're here, we'll just pop in some of the darker notes that are on these two towers as well. The great thing about today is, because it's so breezy, so windy, things are drying off pretty quick. Use my fingers, it's not a problem, just to blur that edge off. So you can see we're now starting to build up the painting. While this is damp, I can also scratch in a couple of highlights that are there as well. Normally you don't want to go too nuts with these highlights, but there are lots and lots of highlighted parts, and today I'm aiming not to use any white highlight paint at all. Something I do around figures and generally pop in now and again, just to put in a few highlights to make things kind of sparkle. But together, so I'm going in with a Fumio 00 brush. If you hear any banging in the background, that's going to be there's either bird catchers out there or they're doing some shooting practice. There's also a huge spray truck arrived, like tractor, and it's spraying the field ahead. So you might hear some of that, but otherwise, it's a beautiful location. Anyway, this is straight into neutral tint, I need to pick up some of the lights really coming here now, so I need to pick up some of these highlights and add in a touch of dry brush while we're here. Beautiful highlights coming in. And that's just joining up some of these bits here. Also, I need to pop in this neutral tint up and around the back here. There's all these bits on the top of this storage factory roof. And I'm not quite sure what they are there. They're there. Just design that in. Come in now with a little bit of burnt sienna. Just to pull that forward a touch. And just mix things up along this roof. Yeah, I could probably go a bit darker there. I'm just talking to myself if you hear me talking. Go a bit darker on those shadows. Put in a few more bits here. Kind of lots of greys in this scene. Picking out a few of these roofs. Going to leave some of these pencil marks. I'm quite happy with them. Sound travels a long way when you're out in the countryside. It's quite at least a mile or so across there, and you can hear virtually every word that people are saying. It's quite fascinating. This is the edge here of another barn. Lots of barns out and about, and I'm just suggesting them. I'm not. These are a crucial part in a way. But the main part is this here, and the atmosphere that we're kind of. You can hear the tractor spraying coming across with his. He might have finished now as you kind of come over to me. I just need to get in some of these larger parts of the whole section of trees, which we're going to pop in now. So here he comes, the tractor. The man who said I didn't need to move out the way earlier. Let's see what happens this time. He's indeed going by me, he's a star. Probably come to have a look at the painting. Probably going to come have a chat as well. So I'm just going to pop in these bushes that are all here along the front. Sorry about that. Yeah, you're alright, mate. It's lovely. I've got some dust on it, but yeah. It's alright. Don't worry, we're getting there. Oh my Lord. We're getting there. Okay, mate, cheers. So I'm going to pop in some darker shadow work now. So that was a local farmer come in for a chat, as you probably heard. Let's pop that in. Ultramarine and alizarin crimson. Important to bring that down to there. There's going to be bigger trees up here as well. Shadows in on these. And I just want to bring in, this is great, the light's really hitting that beautifully, so I can see everything that's going on here, which is nice. Yeah. The thing is with these shadows, it's always best to try and get them in one hit. Never keep fiddling around. These shadows have changed a lot. I quite like the fact that it's over that way more. It's quite blurred on the edge, so I'm gonna get some just clear water to soften that off, and then I'm going to define these shapes a little bit. I'm hoping you can see this from this angle. With some dry brush. Hopefully that'll pick up some of the liquid coming down as well. There we go. That's better. There's a couple of bits coming out of here. Lots of bits and bobs in this. When I'm looking, I'm squinting my eyes up. If you've not seen any of my videos. So I'm squinting so I can see things in terms of shapes and in terms of blocks of tone is the most important thing. Blocks of tone, yeah, that's the most important thing. The thing with the impressionistic style is just to get things in quickly. You're not trying to, it's not a photograph, right? We're not lavishly trying to copy what we see in front of us. Touch of that burnt sienna and a touch of this neutral tint. There's a few finer bits of brush there. I'm kind of coming near the end of this in a way. Obviously this is where I want the eye to go, so the lightest light and the darkest dark. It's quite dark in here. And that will make the eye go here because that is the lightest light and the darkest dark. The roof of this is a number 6, a Skoda, very yellow, which will help to get us to go here. There we go. Again, this was very yellow as well out here. So we'll come in here. There are some interesting things we could do with this, but less is more, as I say. I'm just going to pop in some more trees just in this bit here. And they came across the front of this, so I might need to darken these up. Just kind of pure pigment of a little bit of cadmium, a little bit of ultramarine, a little bit of yellow ochre. I want to keep it, you know, indefined and just let it do its own thing and blend and bleed in there. I quite like all these light parts that are breaking through. The only part that I do need to sort out and finish, going to this number 6 Skoda brush, is on the back here. It wasn't quite right, was it? But they've come up a lot brighter now. The sun's kind of changed, but it doesn't need to be everywhere. We'll just pop those in, and there's some more trees in the distance down here. So lost and found edges again. Quite nice. Don't leave anything in isolation, sort of join things up a little bit. Just going to lose some of this with a touch of water, just clear water, and just my shadow colour to bring this all together. There's a lot of cloud shadows bobbing across here. Shadows are coming across this way. Again, the whole idea of lost and found edges. Just go tonally slightly darker down here. Hopefully you can see this, with a touch of sienna in it as well to warm this shadow up on the bottom. Just want it to be darker tonally here, just to push things back a bit, and slightly different mix. I'm just going to turn that. I know you can't see that, you can hear me. Just let that run and blend and bleed in. You'll see in a second how that works out. There we go. We're kind of done. Yeah, we're kind of done. This is all a bit plain over here. I can see some kind of roofing structures, so I'll pop in some of that. It just seemed just too plain there on that side, so I'm just gonna busy this up a bit with a bit of dry brush. Few bits, few bobs, joining everything up. Same down here, and then we're done. We actually really are done. Get to that point in the painting where you've got to go, right, enough's enough, we're finished. Want the eye to go there, so we're scratching a few bits there, and we'll call that done. So hopefully you enjoyed that one over here at the power station. According to the tractor guy who came across it, it's gas driven, which is interesting. Back up and running, he said. So obviously it's been out for a while. Here's the painting. Hopefully you can see that. I'm pretty pleased with that, especially if we can see it. We'll get it in a shade and take a picture and get the tape off, and you can see that. Beautiful washes in here. Yep. That's just the thing, guys. You get outside and you get the right paper, the right brushes, the right paints, and the weather kind of does the rest. It dries it in an amazing well, as you'll see when you take a look at the finished article. So anyway, thanks a lot. Sean Turrington Wright saying bye bye for now. Take care. Remember to like, subscribe, and all that jazz. And happy painting.